Our last panelist is Bilan Arte, who will be discussing the post-secondary systems and free tuition. Bilan is the National Chairperson of the Canadian Federation of Students, Canada's oldest and largest student organization. She has over 4 years of experience as an activist and organizer in the student movement and is fueled by her passion for social justice, equality, and access to education for all. Bilan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me. My name is Bilan Arte, and as you just heard, I'm the National Chairperson for the Canadian Federation of Students. Now, our federation represents over 650,000 post-secondary students, both at the university and college level from coast to coast. And I bring greetings from our movement to yours, and I first off just wanted to say thank you so much for the people that organized this convention and that invited us to come here and speak. Our organization advocates for a public and high-quality system of post-secondary education for across our country. And today, I'm happy to speak not only on behalf of my generation of students and youth, but also out of hope for the generations to come. I'm grateful for the opportunity to address your federation today, and I'm excited to share students' vision for universal access to post-secondary education in Canada. I also wanted, in particular, to provide you folks with some of the arguments that could support a resolution that you'll be discussing later on this afternoon around free education. I'm hoping that you can use what I'll be sharing here with you today in your conversations, in your own home local unions, as well as in your workplaces, around your dinner tables, and in your communities. Students and workers have long stood in solidarity with one another in the face of government austerity and corporate greed. And in fact, a common saying in our movement, in particular for those workers and unions that are represented in the post-secondary sector, is that your working conditions are our learning conditions. In response to decades of government inaction on skyrocketing tuition fees and mounting student debt, students and their coalition partners, including many of the unions that are represented here today, held actions in over 36 cities and 58 campuses, like the University of Alberta, across the country for a National Day of Action for Free Education this past November 2nd. And through this, we have built a historic coalition for free education, and we know that the time for government action is now. We know that students, educators, workers, administrators, policymakers, and communities, all of us who are represented here today, are part of a strong system of public post-secondary education, which is key to Canada's current and future success. This would generate billions in annual economic activity, drives growth and innovation, and trains and retrains a skilled workforce that can compete globally, foster civic literacy, and promote responsible citizenship. Education is a right, and all in our society benefit directly from the skills and training our population gains through access to education. In particular, Indigenous learners have had a treaty right to access post-secondary education that time and time again has been ignored by the Trudeau government while they simultaneously pay lip service to Indigenous communities. We need universal access without upfront cost, and by eliminating tuition fees across the country, we can build a strong foundation for growth and ensure access to education for everyone, no matter what province they were born in or their parents' or family's income. It's time. We need a new approach to post-secondary education. In 2017, a college diploma or university degree is required for a decent income and a just society. Today, over 70% of new jobs require some form of post-secondary education. And for precarious employment, predominantly in the remaining 30% of jobs, people want pathways to better future. Today's system, we know, is failing young people. In 2011, 42% of Canadians between 20 and 29 years old lived in their parents' homes, up from 27% in 1981. In 2013-2014, 203,000 graduates couldn't make a single payment on their Canada student loan, and this claim requires reporting pre-tax incomes of less than 20 grand per year. It's time, and it's a shame to know that our federal government has profited close to $580 million off the interest of the Canada Student Loans Program, worsening the plight of what is already today the most indebted generation in Canadian history at over $28 billion owed collectively to the federal government. In May 2006, Canada's Parliamentary Budget Office noted that post-secondary education is disproportionately accessed by higher income Canadians, with 60% of students coming from the upper 40% of income earners. Those who are left behind include Indigenous and racialized people, new immigrants and refugees, people with disabilities, young people from low-income families, and too many recently unemployed folks working minimum wage jobs who simply want to get the skills to improve their lives. And I wish to stress that these stats are not only numbers, but we need to know that they are humanized as they illustrate the stories of thousands of youth, like myself, who did not always believe that they could access higher education. I'm going to share something a little bit personal with you all. My parents came to Canada as refugees in the early 1990s. And I grew up within a family and a community that was not only just surviving poverty and making it through paycheck to paycheck. I started working as early as I could to help my single mother make ends meet. And at the age of 17, despite graduating from high school with honors and being granted early admission to university, that was actually at the University of Calgary here in Alberta, I was resigned to give up on my dreams after failing to balance the expenses because I knew that even with student loans, I could never afford higher education. A few weeks before university started, my life changed, and I received a full scholarship to the University of Manitoba. Thank you. Without the full removal of tuition fees as a barrier for my access to university, I would never have had the opportunity to obtain a degree, develop my skills as a leader, and much less be here presenting to you all today. As the first person in my family to obtain a degree, I'm hoping to break the cycle of poverty in my family. However, I must admit that today I'm a big sister who's very nervous for my siblings, especially my youngest sister, who today is only 6. She started grade 1 last year. My heart breaks when I think about how high tuition fees might be by the time that she considers attending post-secondary. And I only hope that I can be in a position by then to help her achieve her dreams when the time comes for her. Now, I know that hope is important to all of us here, but we all know as well that if we are serious about ending these cycles of poverty and inaccessibility, we need more than hope. We need government action immediately to remove all barriers to access post-secondary education. I know that my story is not unique. It is the reality of many of you here today that you know in your own lives, as well as within the lives of many in your membership. It is the reality for too many of my generation and generations to come who cannot believe that they will achieve their dreams of accessing higher education because of skyrocketing tuition fees that increase every single year. And we deserve a Canada that provides a fully public system of post-secondary education, a Canada that actually enables the dreams of innovators of tomorrow. Yeah. I firmly believe that access to higher education is the best social equalizer at this government's disposal, and students expect and deserve more from a government with the means and the power to make education free. We need you all to continue to stand with us in this fight. And I don't know about you, but I'm tired, I get exhausted sometimes, waiting for a better tomorrow. The clock has to run out, in my opinion, on politicians with empty promises for our generation. The clock has to run out on prime ministers that call themselves feminists, but yet do nothing about the reality that the highest public student debt holders are women. The clock has to run out on debt-free access to post-secondary education only for the rich. This is our time. This is when we take action. We are just getting started in our fight for free education, and your support is critical now more than ever. Thank you for standing with us today and in the future. And to close, I wanted to acknowledge how much of our National Day of Action supporters were the unions that are represented in this room today. We saw an unprecedented level of support and a reflection of the fact that students and workers who are fighting for a more just society know that our struggles are intertwined and that this fight will only be won if we are united. Workers and students in Alberta know that their struggles are linked. While the current NDP government, while we are under a current NDP government, we have seen some gains in this sector, but the fight is far from over. Alberta continues to be the lowest taxed province in Canada and the province with the most concentrated after-tax income among the top 1%. Yet we know that the most progressive way to finance universal social programs, living wages, and workers' rights are through existing progressive tax systems. In the most recent budget, the Alberta government announced a tuition fee freeze for the third consecutive year, but international students continue to see their fees increase by alarming rates, despite the benefits that we know they provide to our campuses and to our communities. Finally, we need to work together to make sure that the progressive strides that this province has taken continue to push this government to even greater action for our members and for the most marginalized in this province and across the country. So let us build off of the organizing power of the Day of Action, continue to build coalitions between students and workers on and off campus, and continue showing up for one another at rallies, on picket lines, and on the steps of government. The time is now. Thank you all.